Hey folks, Tony from Green Room Media here, and welcome to our quick character idle animation tutorial. Make sure to grab the free download from the link below if you want to get your hands dirty and try it out for yourself. It's got 2 Dreams files, one has all the artwork set up and ready to animate, and the other is the finished animation. We've actually just launched a brand new Procreate Dreams course that is the most comprehensive course out there right now. It covers literally everything you can do in Dreams, step by step, and in much more detail than our quick Viking tutorial here. So if you really want to get to grips with Dreams, make sure to check out the course at the link in the description below. In the meantime, I'll be putting up some more free Dreams tutorials, shorts, and freebie downloads on YouTube over the next while, so consider subscribing for more stuff. Okay, enough of that, let's get going. Let's have a look at our Viking character in Procreate. I still haven't kind of switched over to doing any drawing in Procreate Dreams. I'm still not 100% sold on it, as there's a few features missing, but no doubt that they're going to get there with it. But so for the time being, I like to work in Procreate still. So you'll see that I've got everything nicely grouped, which is going to really help my organization when I go to animate. I've got 2 main groups. One is all of the upper body and everything that goes with it, and then the legs group underneath. So the legs is simple. There's literally 2 legs. So we can animate the group as a whole, or we can animate the individual elements. And the same goes for the main body. So if I open this out, you'll see I've got a subgroup for the head. And if I select that, you can see all the contents that are in that. I've got individual layers for the eyebrows, and we've got 2 different layers for the eyes. You'll notice one is the eyes open and the other is the eyes closed. And I'll show you a way that we can sequence these basically. There's a few ways of doing this. You could do it frame by frame, but I find that this is quite a quick way to do it, and it allows you to have your artwork 100% correct, so that when you go to animate, you don't even have to think about the illustration stage because you've just got everything prepped and ready to go. Again, right arm group, very simple. It's just 2 different things. I don't even think we're going to move the spikes independently of the arm. That'll all just go as one, but I just left it in there as an option. And especially if you wanted to swap out the armor for something else in the same group later, we can. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Left arm group, quite similar. The only difference with this one is that we've got the hand and the hammer merged. Now, usually, always when we draw, we always have lots and lots of layers, just so that we've got a lot of editability, or we can change colors, or we can redo stuff without having to redo entire sections. But it makes sense, I think, when you go to animate stuff in Dreams, that you commit, that you flatten down some layers to make them as few objects or a few tracks as they'll become when you work with them over in Dreams. So yeah, so I just recommend you keep one master artwork file that has absolutely everything in the kitchen sink in it, have a second file that has your optimized artwork, and Dreams will thank you for it too, because there's less things to move around the screen. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. The reason for the grouping is going to make a lot more sense once we move over. And I think the only other layers are just complete layers. The torso is all just one entire layer, and then we've got 2 little 4 parts on the dude's outfit. So okay, let's hop everything over into Procreate Dreams and we'll get animating. Okay, so over in Dreams, let's take a look at it. I'm going to open up the animation group, and you can see we've got the same groups as we had in Procreate, the main body and the legs group as well. So let's kick off and do some animation on the eyes. It's an interesting one to start off with because it's not the most enjoyable, interesting thing to animate the way I'm going to do this particular one, but it's quite important because it's the first thing that will give a little bit of life to the character. So I'm going to open up the head group, and you'll see that we have got 2 layers. We've got the eyes open, toggle these, and eyes closed. So what I'm going to do is basically sequence these, so we don't have to do any frame by frame animation or anything like that. So let's go to around here. On the eyes open, I'm going to tap my action, edit, split. Just going to move this out of the way. And I just need a few frames from the eyes closed clip. So I'll go on to that track, tap on it, edit, split, and then can long press and delete this side of the content. I'll zoom in a little bit so I can grab this, if Dreams will let me. There we go. Okay. And now I'll just drag these tracks back together. So if we just play through this, we've got a blink. Okay, so we want this to repeat. At the moment, there's no way to loop animations in Dreams, which is a little bit frustrating, and hopefully they'll add that in. But here's how we can do it. So I'm going to split this second clip and delete the second part. And now I'm going to tap on my timeline edit so that I'm able to select these last two tracks. So we've got the eyes closed followed by the eyes open. And now I'll long press on these and group them. I'm going to drag this track, so just to keep everything on the same track. And now if I long press on that group, duplicate it, now I've got the eyes blinking again. Let's try that. Blink, blink. Okay, that works. So we could just keep duplicating that out, but let's make it slightly more interesting. I'm going to drag back the length of, let me exit my timeline edit. I'm going to make the second one a little bit shorter. I'm going to do double blink. And long press and duplicate that. Okay, and just drag this one out very slightly. So now, got eyes open, he blinks, then he does double blink. So just adds a little bit of life to it. So I want this to just loop throughout the entire sequence. So still in my timeline edit, I'll drag to select them all, and now I will group this. So now I've got a full loop of a blink and a double blink, and I'm just going to long press and duplicate this throughout the entire animation. And while I'm in the timeline edit, I'm going to tap top right on content, switch to tracks. I'm going to select these empty junk tracks that I don't need, long press, delete track. And now already we've got our dude up and running. Okay, let's keep going. Give him a little bit more personality. Again, we're just kind of bringing the face to life first before we do anything else. So maybe, yeah, around here. I'm going to take the left eyebrow. Around 2 seconds in. And I will tap to add a move keyframe. And I'll move forward in the timeline just a few frames. And let's just move this, rotate it so his eyebrow pops up. Okay, gives him a little bit of personality. Maybe let's drag these a little bit closer together. And then we want it to come back down as well. So I'm going to tap on the move keyframe track. That will just copy the settings for the previous one. We don't want that to move yet. And then on this one, instead of eyeballing it and putting it back down, I'm going to tap on the keyframe I've created. And I'm going to reset these values. So I don't want it to be translated or moved on the horizontal x-axis. I don't want it to be moved on the y. I want it to go back to where it started out. And for the rotation, put it back to 0. So yeah, you can eyeball it, but if you want to do a perfect loop of a character, this is the way to make sure that everything goes back to its start position for when it loops. Okay, let's do something with the other eyebrow as well, but I'm not going to copy this exactly. I'm going to have a little bit of overlap just to stagger what's going on and just make it slightly more interesting and less mechanical. So let's tap to add a move keyframe on this one at about 3 seconds. We'll have this one turn a little bit and come back down. Yeah, we want this to go back to its starting position pretty much around the same time as the other one. So reset all those values. Drag that a little further in. So let's see how this plays. Okay, that will do fine. I mean, we're not going to be looking at it this close anyway, so I think once we add a few more points of animation throughout the whole character, it'll be a little bit better than the sum of its parts. Okay, so next up, what will we look at? Okay, let's bring his torso and his body to life. Let's make him breathe. And for this, I'm going to use a different type of keyframe. Let me turn back on his legs. Okay, so on the torso, I'm going to tap my action. I'm going to add a move, but this time I'm going to use a warp keyframe. And what this will do is it puts a grid on top of the artwork. And if you remember, this is the shape that the artwork is taking. So what we can do now is I'm going to use the record method to perform the chest breathing. And so you're able to grab any of the individual nodes and move them and record your animation while you do it. So let's enable the record. And I'll just try to roughly get him breathing in and out like a human would. And I'll just go through this for the duration of the clip. We'll probably cut it down from whatever 15 seconds I have it now, but that should do fine. One of the things I love about this record method is you can go back and you can do more on top of it, so without losing the first one. So you'll see which node I grab next, but I'm going to repeat the process and try to match it up as best I can with the left side of the chest. It's a really small, subtle touch, but I do think it helps to bring him to life. Okay, let's not stop here. Let's keep going. We're on a warp buzz and it's working out. So I'm going to go to the layer with this bit of fur. I'm going to go to my motion and add a warp again. So I'm going to do 2 passes of this. First, I'm going to grab the bottom right one and animate this. But this one is a lot more forgiving because we want this to kind of look like the wind is blowing it. And obviously the wind is a little bit more erratic. So we don't need this to be really accurate or mechanical, very loose. Okay, that worked. Let's go back to the start. And I'm going to grab a different node now as well, just to make it move just a little bit nicer. So let's try this. Okay, that will do that nicely. And let's go and do the exact same to the other. So I might speed this bit up because it's the exact same thing as before. I'm just going to do 2 passes, one with one node, the other with another. And let's do another pass, this time grabbing another node. Okay, I'm going to tap on my record button to turn it off. And let's have a quick look at what we have so far. Okay, we're getting there. It's far from done, but we can already see that there's a little bit of life starting to come together. So I think the next thing that we're going to have this dude do is we'll have him kind of crouch down and just kind of go up on his legs a little bit, just so he's not just standing there waiting on a bus. So for this, I'm going to focus on the legs. I'm just going to close up this main body group and let's go forward to, okay, where he finishes his eyebrow waggle. So the legs group, it has each of the 2 legs as individual layers of artwork. But I'm going to animate the 2 legs together first, and then I'll animate one of them independently afterwards. So I'm going to tap on this to add a movement scale again. And I'm going to tap these little 3 dots to change my anchor point. And the anchor point, in case you don't know, it's the point around which your artwork will scale or rotate. So it's like the center point of these things happening. So I want the feet to kind of stay where they are, but it's the top of the legs I'm going to move. I'm going to turn off the main body layer just so we can see what we're doing. So I want these legs to compress down. And so I'll just move the playhead ahead. I'll drag it down a little bit so they start to compress. And then just to create a little bit more anticipation, I'm going to keep going down just a little bit. So we feel that he's ready to spring up, and he's going to spring straight up around here. Something like this. And then I guess we'll have to bring them back down to normal. So I'm going to get my keyframe track, tap on it to create the same one that's here before, so it holds, and then we will have him go back down. And I don't want to guess this again, so I'm just going to tap on it and set my scale on the Y, or the vertical axis, back to 1. So that will go back to a starting position. Okay, it all looks a little bit weird without the body, but let's match that up now. I'm going to align these keyframes here. I'm going to add a move to this entire group of all this upper torso and head and arms, everything all into one group. Move forward a few frames. So we want to move this down so that it matches the movement of the legs. Maybe we'll move it a little bit more just to give him, make him feel like he's getting ready to spring into action. And it continues going down just a little bit to create a little bit extra anticipation. Then we have him spring up. Now I'm going to rotate and move him forward so it looks like his weight, the body weight, is a little bit more on that front leg. I'm going to animate to lift up his back leg in a second. Because it looks a bit weird how it is at the minute. Okay, and then let's match that with the legs for coming back down. So we have this done. I'm just going to tap on the keyframe track to make the same one, move forward. And again, I'm going to double tap on this. I'm going to reset my translate. I want it back in the start position. So 0 for X and Y, 0 rotation. We're done with that. Now let's fix that leg. And I think it's okay for the legs to both be matching up until it goes up. So around here, I'm going to find my right leg. Going to add a move keyframe, move and scale. Now for this one, we wanted the feet to stay in the ground with the group. For this, we want the hip to be the anchor point. So roughly around here. Again, it's one of the little tricks of the character design. We wanted the fur to kind of hide this so we don't have to be super exact. Click done. I've finished setting my keyframe. I'm going to set this up. Can we push that a little bit more, maybe? Maybe even move it out a little. Okay. I'd moved ahead. Make sure I'm making the change on the actual keyframe. And we'll keep that up. I think for this, we're not going to match exactly with the body coming down because, you know, it's nice to have a little bit of overlap of animation, firstly, to make things less mechanical, but also it would make sense that he brings his leg down first to balance on it. So I'm going to tap to add another keyframe that's the same, and then make sure that that comes down. I'm going to set everything back so it matches the starting point. So that should come back down. It's coming down a little bit too soon. But you can see here now, okay, it's coming down a little bit too quickly. So I'm going to go drag this, move it over. But you can see how just even a frame or two makes an enormous difference with how the animation looks. So, I mean, I think half of animation is getting things in place and keyframing it. The other half is massaging those keyframes so that it looks more natural. Okay, now let's just look at that entire movement. And something we should always be doing is checking it out to make sure it's working. He squeezes down, up he goes. Okay, that's working. So we just need to sell it with moving the other parts of his body. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is let's get his arm lifting up and raising that hammer up. I'm going to move to my main body group and find my left arm. So I've got, yeah, it's split into the arm, the spikes on the shoulder, and then we've combined the hammer with the hand itself. But let's get the arm movement going first. Let me find where he goes up. Okay, so around here. Okay, so I'm going to put this keyframe on the entire group of the arm holding the hammer. And tap, add my move keyframe, add my move and scale, and I want to make sure that my anchor point is in around his shoulder where it attaches to the body so it rotates right. It's going to look a little weird because I haven't rotated the hammer yet, but all we care about is get that arm rotation up. I'm going to tap done because I'm finished setting my anchor point and rotate this up. And then I'll tap to copy that keyframe and put the rotation back to 0 where it started. Okay. Now I'm going to open this group and I'm going to rotate in the other direction, the wrist and the hammer, so that he raises it up. Tap, move, move and scale. Remember to set my anchor point to the wrist. That's the point that we wanted to rotate around. Let's try it around here. Hit done, finish setting anchor point, move forward. Rotate it. And we'll hold that up. And again, reset the rotation at the very end so it comes back down. Now, let's look at this in real time. Now, that's kind of fine, but it's also not, because it looks like the hammer weighs nothing. We want to give it a little bit of heft. So what we can do is, I think what I will do here is I'll change the easing of it coming down. By default, the easing that's in any of the keyframes that you put into Dreams, it's going to be ease in, ease out. That means that it starts off slow, accelerates, and then when it's at the end, it decelerates and it slows down. And that works great for, by default for pretty much any animation. But for this, I don't want it to feel like the hammer is decelerating on the way down. I want to feel like it starts to fall slowly, then it picks up speed, and then it only stops because it hits its shoulder. So how can we do that? Instead of setting the the easing for the entire track, I'm going to long press and expand move and scale. And what this allows you to do is to set individual easings between two individual keyframes. And the one I'm concerned about here is going to be the rotation. So I'm going to long press in between these two. And instead of setting all easings, I'm going to just tap on set easing. So I want it to ease in, so it's slow to start, but then it comes to an abrupt stop. See how that looks. Okay, quite subtle, but let's keep going and sell it even more. I'm going to collapse move and scale. I'm just going to give it a little bounce. Just move forward a couple of keyframes, rotate it up slightly, and I'm going to tap again, set the rotation to 0. Let's see how this looks. Okay, now it feels like there's some actual weight behind that hammer. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's keep going. So I think for this next bit, I just want to add a little bit more life again into the character. I'm going to go back up and find the head group. I think it's time to give his eyebrows another little workout. So maybe as he's crouching down, we'll have him start to focus his eyebrows. So I'll tap on a keyframe to add it. I'm still on the move keyframe track. Rotate this a little bit to show that he means business. Let's kind of copy, do something similar on the other side. Tap for the initial position. And now I'll add another one. I don't want to scale it, I just want to rotate it. So he's gone up and comes back down. Maybe we'll start to get him to relax his eyebrows here. So we'll add a keyframe so it's still the same as the previous one. And I want to reset the very end one back to 0. Let's do the same. We'll tap, that will keep the same keyframe value that was before it. Move forward a little bit and put this back again to 0. And yes, our blink is still working. Great. So let's keep going. We're very, very nearly there now. I'm going to take this right arm group. And I think for this, I'm going to try to perform it, see how it looks. I'm going to make sure I've got my anchor point in the right place. I want it around the shoulder where the arm will join up with the body. It's done after I've set that. And yeah, I'm going to do a move and scale, and I'm going to record this. All I'm going to do is just rotate it as it goes. Oh, no, that's not good. Okay, let's try it again. What I like about this is that it doesn't record unless you press your pencil down on the screen. So you can lift it off and then put it back on and keep going. So it's very, very handy in case you start to get a little bit of cramp in your hand. Okay, I think that's going to do it. Let's have a quick look at that. Okay, that will do for now. And I think the last thing that we'll do, I'm going to animate the entire head group. So the head, the eyebrows, the eyes, everything all into one. And because we've got all of our subgroups in there, we don't have to worry about repositioning and if the eyes or eyebrows or anything like that. We can just, they'll all come along with the main head group that we animate. So I'm going to do the same thing, move and scale. I think my anchor point is in a slightly strange place. Yeah, but you know what? This is stylized. I'm not too worried. Let's see if it looks okay like this. I'm going to enable record and let's just move his head. Then if I want to make sure that it loops, I can always go back in, find my last keyframe and make sure that that's back at 0. So I think that's kind of it. Let's have a quick look at the whole thing. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers the animation. I mean, all I would do from here is I would just go around and just add little details, change a couple of things. You know, I'd be tempted to go back and fix some of the rotations I've put in for his head. You know, it's maybe a little extreme. Let's see if we can find that. Yeah, these. Yeah, I think his head goes back too far, so I don't like this keyframe or this keyframe. Let's delete them. Delete, delete. I think that's okay. And then maybe let's bring his head back into place quicker. So I can delete this keyframe by long press and delete. And let's move that one back a little bit. Long press and drag. I think that's okay. Okay, one last quick look and I'm going to call this done. I think you guys have got the point at this stage. So that's it. That's our complete Viking Dude animation. Hopefully that was of some use to you all. And yeah, as I say, all I would do is I just go around tweaking a few of these things. And I think with a lot of animation, you never finish it, you just decide to stop.